The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, and Clara Martinez felt every head in the gallery turn toward her, as golden liquid spread across the pristine white surface like a Jackson Pollock painting gone wrong. "I am so sorry," she whispered, dropping to her knees immediately, her cheeks burning hot enough to light the entire exhibition. The servers rushed over with towels, but she was already trying to pick up the larger shards of glass with trembling fingers. "Please, miss, let us handle this," one of them said gently, but Clara shook her head, mortified beyond reason. This was supposed to be her big night, the gallery opening where her restoration work would finally be displayed alongside the masters she had spent 3 years bringing back to life. Instead, she was creating a scene that would probably end up as gossip in every art circle in Chicago by morning. "Here, let me help you up before you cut yourself." The voice was deep, warm, and came with a hand that appeared in her line of vision. Clara looked up and found herself staring into the bluest eyes she had ever seen. The man attached to them was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His dark brown hair was styled with effortless precision, and when he smiled at her, she felt her stomach do something completely inappropriate for a professional setting. "I really should clean this up," she said, but her voice came out breathless. "The staff has it covered," he assured her, gently taking her elbow and helping her stand. His grip was firm but careful, and Clara became acutely aware that her simple black dress suddenly felt inadequate surrounded by all this wealth and elegance. "Are you hurt?" "Only my dignity," she admitted, brushing off her dress. "And possibly my career. Nothing says professional art restorer like destroying property at your first major showing." He laughed, a genuine sound that made something in her chest loosen. "I doubt anyone will remember in 10 minutes. Besides, I once knocked over an entire sculpture at a fundraiser, cost about $40,000. This is nothing." Clara's eyes widened. "Please tell me you are joking." "I wish I was. My mother still brings it up at every family dinner." He extended his hand properly. "Sebastian Sterling." She took it, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers. "Clara Martinez, and thank you for the rescue. I tend to get nervous at these things." "You are nervous, but this is your exhibition, is it not?" Sebastian gestured toward the wall where her name was elegantly printed beside the restored paintings she had spent countless hours bringing back to their original glory. "You know my work." The surprise in her voice was genuine. "I make it my business to know quality when I see it," he said, his gaze holding hers for a moment longer than necessary. "Your restoration of the Bellingham portrait is extraordinary. I have never seen 18th-century technique preserved so beautifully while still bringing out colors that must have been hidden for decades." Clara felt her face flush again, but this time with pleasure rather than embarrassment. "You actually looked at it closely enough to notice the color work. Most people just see an old painting brought back to life. Most people do not understand art the way they should." Sebastian moved slightly closer, and Clara caught a hint of his cologne, something expensive and understated. "Would you walk me through your process? I am genuinely curious how you achieved such remarkable results." For the next hour, Clara forgot about the broken glass, her nervousness, and the crowd of wealthy patrons circulating through the gallery. Sebastian listened with complete attention as she explained the painstaking process of cleaning centuries of grime and varnish, the detective work involved in determining original colors, the steadiness required to touch up areas without destroying the artist's intent. He asked intelligent questions, made observations that showed he actually understood art history, and looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the room. "I could talk about this forever," Clara said finally, laughing at herself. Sorry, I get carried away. Do not apologize. Passion is rare enough that it should be celebrated, not contained. Sebastian checked his watch, and something flickered across his face. Regret, maybe. I hate to cut this short, but I have a call with London in 20 minutes. International business does not respect social calendars. Of course, Clara said, trying not to feel disappointed. It had been nice, feeling seen by someone who genuinely appreciated her work. Have dinner with me tomorrow night, Sebastian said suddenly. It was not quite a question, but not quite a command either. Something right in between that made her heart skip. I don't even know you, Clara pointed out, though her traitorous heart was already saying yes. Then dinner is the perfect opportunity to change that. His smile was confident but not arrogant. I promise I am more interesting than I look. You look pretty interesting already, Clara said before she could stop herself, then immediately wanted to take it back. But Sebastian's smile widened. Then imagine how interesting I will be with better lighting and actual food. He pulled out his phone. Your number. Clara rattled it off, still not quite believing this was happening. Men who looked like Sebastian Sterling did not ask girls who dropped champagne glasses to dinner. Especially not at gallery openings, where he was probably supposed to be networking with people far more important than her. I'll pick you up at 7, he said, already typing something into his phone. Wear something comfortable. I hate restaurants where you cannot actually enjoy your food because you are worried about spilling on expensive clothes. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd with the kind of easy confidence that came from always belonging wherever he went. Clara touched her phone in her clutch, making sure it was real, that this whole conversation had not been some stress-induced hallucination. Who was that? Her best friend Rachel appeared at her elbow, eyes wide. Rachel worked at the gallery as a curator and had been the one to recommend Clara for this exhibition. Please tell me you got his number. He got mine, Clara said faintly. Rachel, who is Sebastian Sterling? Rachel grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks. You do not know. Clara, that is Sebastian Sterling, as in Sterling Enterprises, as in one of the wealthiest men in Chicago. He owns half the real estate downtown and has a private art collection that makes museums jealous. What did you say to him? I talked about varnish removal techniques, Clara said weakly. Rachel started laughing so hard she had to wipe her eyes. Only you could land a date with a millionaire by discussing chemical compounds. This is amazing. When are you seeing him again? Tomorrow night. Rachel, I cannot go to dinner with someone like that. Look at me. I have student loan debt and I shop at thrift stores. And he asked you out anyway, Rachel pointed out firmly. Clara, you are brilliant, talented, and gorgeous. Any man would be lucky to have dinner with you, millionaire or not. Just be yourself. But being herself felt terrifying when 7 o'clock rolled around the next evening. Clara had changed outfits 4 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft burgundy sweater that Rachel insisted brought out her eyes. She left her dark hair down in loose waves and kept her makeup simple. If Sebastian wanted comfortable, she would give him comfortable. The knock on her apartment door came at exactly 7. Clara took a deep breath and opened it. Sebastian stood there in jeans and a charcoal Henley that showed off his athletic build, looking somehow even more attractive in casual clothes than he had in the suit. His smile was immediate and genuine. You look beautiful, he said simply. You look different, Clara replied, then winced. I mean, good different, just not what I expected. I spend enough time in suits during the week. Weekends are for being human, he offered his arm. Ready. His car was nice, sleek and expensive but not ostentatious, and he drove with the same quiet confidence he seemed to bring to everything else. They headed away from the downtown restaurants Clara had been expecting, and toward a neighborhood she recognized as decidedly middle class. "I thought we were going to dinner," she said, curious. "We are. Best Italian food in Chicago, run by a family who has been cooking the same recipes for 4 generations. No tablecloths, no pretension, just incredible food." Sebastian glanced at her. "Unless you would prefer something fancier." "This sounds perfect," Clara said honestly. The restaurant was exactly as advertised, a small storefront with mismatched chairs and the kind of warmth that came from being genuinely loved by its community. The owner greeted Sebastian by name, hugged him like family, and immediately started bringing out dishes without bothering with menus. "I take it you come here often," Clara said, watching Sebastian dig into fresh bread with the same enthusiasm she felt. "Every week if I can manage it. My assistant thinks I am crazy for driving 40 minutes out of my way for pasta, but some things are worth the effort." He looked at her across the worn wooden table. "Tell me about you, Clara Martinez. How does someone end up restoring art for a living?" So she told him. About growing up in a neighborhood where art was a luxury no one could afford. About a high school teacher who had taken her to her first museum and changed her entire world. About working 3 jobs to pay for art school and discovering she had a gift for bringing old paintings back to life. She told him about the satisfaction of uncovering an artist's true vision, about feeling connected to people centuries dead through their brushstrokes. "What about you?" she asked finally, twirling pasta around her fork. "How do you end up owning half of Chicago?" Sebastian laughed. The short version: I inherited a struggling real estate company from my father and spent 10 years turning it around. The longer version involves a lot of failure, some lucky breaks, and an obsessive attention to detail that makes me terrible at parties. "You seemed fine at the gallery," Clara pointed out. "That was easy. I was talking to you." The way he said it, direct and honest, made her heart flutter. Most of those events are just networking theater. Everyone trying to impress everyone else. "You were the first genuine person I had talked to all week." The food kept coming, each dish better than the last, and the conversation flowed like they had known each other for years instead of hours. Sebastian was funny, self-deprecating in a way that felt real rather than performative, and he listened to her like she was saying something important even when she was just rambling about her favorite painting techniques. "I have a confession," Sebastian said as they shared tiramisu. "I came to that gallery opening specifically to meet you." Clara's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "What?" "My art advisor told me about your work months ago. I have been following your career since you restored that Renaissance piece for the museum last year. When I heard you would be at the opening, I cleared my schedule." He met her eyes steadily. "I did not plan on asking you out. That part was impulse, but I am not sorry about it." "I do not know what to say," Clara admitted. Her mind was racing. This was too much, too fast, too everything. "Say you will see me again," Sebastian said quietly. "No pressure, no expectations. Just more time together." "I work constantly," Clara warned him. "My current project is a 16th century triptych that is going to consume my life for the next 6 months. I am not glamorous or exciting. I work 80-hour weeks, and my idea of excitement is finding a building with good historical bones," Sebastian countered. "I think we will manage." Clara found herself smiling. "Okay. Yes, I would like that." The next months unfolded like a painting coming to life under careful restoration. Sebastian fit himself into the spaces of her life with surprising ease. He showed up at her studio with coffee and pastries, content to sit quietly while she worked, occasionally asking questions that showed he was paying attention. He took her to hole-in-the-wall restaurants in neighborhoods she had never explored, attended art lectures that bored him senseless just because she found them interesting, and listened with genuine fascination when she ranted about the difficulties of matching paint that had not been manufactured for 200 years. For her part, Clara learned that Sebastian was nothing like the ruthless businessman his reputation suggested. He was thoughtful, quick to laugh, and passionate about architecture in a way that mirrored her own love of art. He showed her buildings he was restoring around the city, pointing out original crown molding and carefully preserved tile work with the same reverence she felt handling antique canvases. "Most people just want to tear everything out and modernize," he explained as they walked through a Victorian mansion he was converting into affordable apartments. "But these buildings have stories. They deserve to be honored." "Affordable apartments?" Clara asked, noting the detail in the work being done. "That cannot be profitable," Sebastian shrugged. "Not everything has to be about profit. The city needs housing people can actually afford. I can absorb the lower margins on projects like this because other developments do well. It feels better than building another luxury high-rise." That was when Clara started falling, really falling. Not for his money or his looks or even his intelligence, but for his heart. For the way he cared about things beyond himself. The way he used his resources to make things better rather than just accumulating more. 3 months in, he invited her to a charity gala. "Fair warning, it is going to be insufferably boring," Sebastian said. "Lots of rich people congratulating themselves for donating money they will not miss. But the cause is good and I am expected to show up. Would you come with me? Make it bearable." Clara said yes, even though the thought of a formal event filled her with anxiety. Rachel took her shopping, insisting she needed something worthy of appearing on Sebastian Sterling's arm. They found a deep blue gown that managed to be elegant without making Clara feel like she was wearing a costume. When Sebastian picked her up, the look on his face made every moment of dress anxiety worth it. "You are stunning," he said, and the reverence in his voice felt like being seen as a masterpiece. The gala was exactly as boring as promised, but Sebastian kept her laughing with whispered commentary on the more ridiculous attendees. They danced, and Clara discovered he was surprisingly good at it, leading her through waltzes and foxtrots with easy confidence. "Where did a real estate developer learn to dance like this?" she asked. "Boarding school. They insisted on teaching us useless social graces." His hand was warm on her waist, solid and reassuring. "Turns out it is not so useless when you have the right partner." As they swayed together, Clara noticed people watching them. Curious looks, speculative whispers. She felt suddenly exposed, aware that she was being evaluated by people whose wealth could buy her entire life several times over. "Ignore them," Sebastian murmured, pulling her fractionally closer. "They do not matter." But later, when he was networking with potential investors, she overheard 2 women in the bathroom discussing them. "I give it 3 months, one said. "Sebastian Sterling with an art restorer, please. She is pretty enough, but she is nobody. He will get bored and move on." "Such a shame," the other agreed. "I always thought he would end up with someone appropriate, someone from his world." Clara stared at herself in the ornate mirror, her beautiful dress suddenly feeling like borrowed clothes. Someone appropriate, someone from his world. She was quiet on the drive home, and Sebastian noticed immediately. "What is wrong?" he asked, pulling up outside her apartment. "Do you ever think about how different we are?" Clara said finally. "Your life is galas and business deals and cars that cost more than my education. Mine is paint fumes and student loans and thrift store furniture. Maybe those women are right. Maybe we do not make sense." Sebastian turned to face her fully. "What women? Just some people at the gala. They were talking about us." Clara twisted her hands together. "About how I am not appropriate for you." "Clara, Look at me. Sebastian waited until she met his eyes. I have dated appropriate women. Women from the right families with the right connections who knew how to navigate my world perfectly. And I was miserable because none of them saw me. They saw my bank account, my last name, my use as a networking opportunity. You see me. The person who loves old buildings and terrible Italian restaurants and watching you work because your passion is the most beautiful thing I have ever witnessed. That is what matters. Not what some strangers think is appropriate, but your life. Clara started. My life is better with you in it, Sebastian interrupted firmly. These past few months have been the happiest I have had in years. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You remind me why I started doing this work in the first place. If that is not appropriate, then I do not want appropriate. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. I am falling in love with you, she whispered, and it terrifies me. Sebastian reached out and cupped her face gently. I fell in love with you the moment you started explaining varnish compounds like they were the most important thing in the world. And yes, it is terrifying. But it is also the best thing that has ever happened to me. When he kissed her, it felt like coming home to a place she had not known she was searching for. Soft and sure and full of promise. The next morning, Clara woke to her phone ringing insistently. She grabbed it, still half asleep, and found Rachel screaming on the other end. Have you seen the internet, Clara? You are in the society pages. Clara sat up, suddenly awake. What? Someone photographed you and Sebastian at the gala. The caption says Chicago's most eligible bachelor off the market, and there are like 1,000 comments speculating about who you are. This is insane. Clara pulled up the photo on her phone. It was from when they had been dancing, Sebastian looking down at her like she was precious, her face turned up to his with obvious adoration. In the context of that moment, it had felt private and perfect. Seeing it splashed across gossip sites felt violating. The comments ranged from supportive to vicious. People praising them as a beautiful couple, people questioning her motives, people dissecting her dress and background and credentials like she was a specimen to be studied. Someone had already dug up her social media, her art school history, even her childhood neighborhood. Clara felt sick. Sebastian called an hour later. I saw the photos. Are you okay? People are insane, Clara said, scrolling through another article speculating about their relationship. Half of them think I am a gold digger, the other half think you are slumming. This is exactly what those women were talking about. Clara, listen to me. This will blow over. Some celebrity will do something stupid and everyone will forget about us. Can you ignore it until then? I do not know, she admitted. This feels like a lot, I know. And I am sorry you are dealing with it, but I am not sorry about us. Sebastian's voice was steady, certain. Take the day, process this, but do not let strangers on the internet tell you what we are to each other. Only we get to decide that. Clara spent the day working on her triptych restoration, losing herself in the familiar rhythm of careful brushwork. By evening, she had reached a conclusion. She called Sebastian. Come over. We need to talk. He arrived 30 minutes later, concern written across his face. Clara let him in and gestured to her small, cluttered living room with its second-hand furniture and walls covered in art prints. This is my world, she said without preamble. Tight spaces and tight budgets and work that takes years to complete for not much pay. I love it. I am proud of it. But it is never going to be galas and society pages and the kind of life you are used to. I know, Sebastian said carefully. And your world is intimidating and overwhelming and full of people who think I do not belong. Clara took a breath. But you make me happier than I have ever been. You see me the way I see you, as a complete person rather than just a role to fill. So if you are serious about this, about us, then I am in. Completely. But I need to know you are in too. that you are not going to wake up in 6 months and realize those women were right, that I am not appropriate enough for your life. Sebastian crossed the room and took her hands. Clara, I am going to tell you something I have never told anyone. When I took over my father's company, I spent years building it into something successful. And somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I became this persona that people expected, the successful businessman who dated the right women and attended the right events, and never let anyone see that I was lonely and bored and desperately missing any sense of purpose beyond making money. Then I met you. He squeezed her hands gently. You remind me why I fell in love with buildings in the first place, why I cared about preservation and history and creating spaces that matter. You are passionate and genuine, and you do not need me to be anything except myself. That is irreplaceable. So yes, I am in. Completely. For as long as you will have me. Clara kissed him then, pouring every ounce of love and fear and hope into it. When they broke apart, she was smiling. Okay then. We do this together. The attention did eventually die down, though it never quite disappeared. Clara learned to ignore the occasional photographer, the speculation that popped up whenever they attended events together. She focused on her work, on the steady satisfaction of bringing art back to life, and on building a relationship that felt more real than anything else in her life. 6 months after the gala, Sebastian took her to see a building he had just acquired. It was an old warehouse in a neighborhood that was starting to gentrify, with good bones but decades of neglect. I have been thinking about what to do with this place, he said as they walked through the vast, echoing space. And I had an idea I wanted to run by you. What kind of idea? Clara asked, looking up at the high ceilings and original brick. An art restoration studio and workshop. State-of-the-art facilities for restorers like you, combined with gallery space to showcase the work and educational programs to teach the next generation. A place where art is not just for wealthy collectors but for everyone. Sebastian looked at her carefully. I want you to help me design it. Better yet, I want you to run it. Clara stopped walking. Sebastian, that would cost millions, and I do not have experience running anything that large. You would learn. You are brilliant at what you do and you care about making art accessible. That is more important than experience. He moved closer. I have the money to make this happen, but I need your vision to make it matter. Think about it. An entire facility dedicated to preservation and education with you at the center. Your name on the building. My name. Clara's voice was faint. The Clara Martinez Center for Art Restoration and Education. Sebastian said it like it was already decided. It fits, do you not think? Clara felt tears streaming down her face. Why would you do this? Because I love you. Because your passion deserves support. Because art matters and preservation matters and you matter. Sebastian wiped away her tears gently. Because I want to build a life with you, and that life should include your dreams becoming reality. I love you so much it is ridiculous, Clara said through her tears. Yes, yes to all of it. Planning the center consumed the next year. Clara worked with architects and contractors, designed workflows and educational programs, interviewed potential staff members. Sebastian handled the financial and legal aspects, but he let Clara make every creative decision. Watching him respect her vision, even when it complicated his timelines or budgets, made her fall more in love with him every day. They moved in together, splitting their time between Sebastian's downtown penthouse and Clara's much smaller apartment. Sebastian claimed to love her place for its coziness, though Clara suspected he actually just loved being wherever she was. They fell into rhythms, learning each other's quirks and habits. Sebastian's obsessive need to have his schedule organized down to the minute. Clara's tendency to lose track of time when working on a project. his terrible singing in the shower, her habit of leaving coffee cups on every available surface. The center opened 18 months after Sebastian had shown her the building. The grand opening was packed with artists, students, collectors, and press. Clara stood at the podium in front of the restored warehouse, now gleaming with new life, and looked out at the crowd. Art connects us to history, to each other, to the people who came before and the people who will come after, she said. This center exists to honor that connection, to preserve it, and to teach others to value it. Thank you to everyone who made this possible, especially Sebastian Sterling, whose vision and support turned a dream into reality. She met his eyes across the crowd and saw pride and love reflected back at her. After the speeches and tours and endless networking, they finally had a moment alone in what would be Clara's new office. "This is overwhelming," she said, looking around at the space that was larger than her entire old apartment. "I still cannot believe this is real. Believe it. You earned it." Sebastian pulled her close. "How does it feel?" "Like I am exactly where I am supposed to be," Clara said honestly. "With work I love and you beside me, I could not ask for anything more." "Funny you should mention that," Sebastian said, and something in his tone made her look up sharply. He was reaching into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box that made her heart stop. "Because I absolutely can ask for more." He opened the box to reveal a ring, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds that caught the light like stars. "Clara Martinez, you have made me happier than I ever thought possible. You have shown me what it means to be seen, to be loved for who I actually am rather than what I can provide. I want to spend the rest of my life building things with you, supporting your dreams, and creating a home that is ours together. Will you marry me?" Clara's hands flew to her mouth. "Yes," she said through tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." The ring slid onto her finger perfectly, and when Sebastian kissed her, it felt like sealing a promise that had been building since that first night at the gallery. They married 6 months later in a ceremony that blended both their worlds. The venue was a restored historic mansion Sebastian had saved from demolition, filled with art Clara had helped preserve. The guest list mixed Clara's art world friends with Sebastian's business associates, her large extended family with his smaller, more formal one. Rachel served as maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony while Sebastian's brother stood as best man. Clara wore a simple ivory gown that let her radiate rather than overwhelm her, and when Sebastian saw her walking down the aisle, his expression made her feel like the most precious thing he had ever encountered. "I love you," he mouthed as she reached him. "I love you too," she whispered back. The officiant spoke about partnership and respect and building a life together, but Clara barely heard it. She was too focused on Sebastian's hands holding hers, steady and sure, on the way he looked at her like she was everything. When they exchanged vows, Sebastian's voice was thick with emotion. "Clara, you walked into my life and reminded me what it means to be passionate about something. You see beauty in old, forgotten things and dedicate yourself to bringing them back to life. You did that for me too, brought me back to life when I did not even realize I had been just existing. I promise to support your dreams, to laugh with you, to build a life that honors both our worlds, and to love you with everything I have for as long as I live." Clara was crying too hard to speak smoothly, but she managed. "Sebastian, you saw me when I felt invisible. You valued my work, my passion, my entire self in a way no one else ever has. You have given me opportunities I never dreamed possible while still respecting my voice and vision. I promise to be your partner in everything, to challenge you when you need it and support you always, to build a life with you that matters beyond money or success, and to love you with my whole heart forever." The kiss that sealed their marriage was soft and sweet and full of promise. The reception was joyous chaos, dancing and toasts and more food than necessary. Clara's mother cornered Sebastian and told him in rapid Spanish that he had better take care of her daughter or answer to the entire Martinez family. Sebastian, who had been taking Spanish lessons as a surprise for Clara, responded that he would protect her with his life. Clara's mother burst into tears and hugged him hard enough to crack ribs. "You have good taste in men," Clara's father told her, watching Sebastian being absorbed into her large, loud family with good-natured grace. "He looks at you the way I look at your mother, like you are his entire world." "He is mine too," Clara said softly. They honeymooned in Italy, spending 2 weeks exploring art museums and eating incredible food, and making love in hotels with views of ancient cities. Sebastian indulged Clara's desire to spend hours in galleries, and Clara indulged his need to photograph every interesting building they encountered. They talked about the future, about the center's expansion plans, about maybe buying a house with space for both an art studio and a home office, about children someday when they were ready. "How many do you want?" Clara asked one evening as they watched the sunset over Florence. "However many you want to give me," Sebastian said easily. 150. As long as I have you, the rest is just details." "I think 2 sounds good," Clara said thoughtfully. "Enough that they have each other, not so many that we lose ourselves completely to parenting." "2 sounds perfect," Sebastian agreed, pulling her close. They returned to Chicago and threw themselves back into work and life. The center flourished under Clara's direction, gaining reputation as one of the premier restoration facilities in the country. Sebastian's business continued to expand, but he made sure to prioritize time together, turning down projects that would require too much travel or attention. 2 years into their marriage, Clara discovered she was pregnant. She told Sebastian over dinner at that same Italian restaurant where they had gone on their first date. "I have news," she said, watching him twirl pasta. "Good news, I think, though also terrifying news." Sebastian looked up immediately. "What is it?" Clara pulled out the positive pregnancy test and set it on the table between them. For a moment, Sebastian just stared at it. Then his face transformed with joy so pure it took her breath away. "Really?" His voice cracked. "We are having a baby." "We are having a baby," Clara confirmed. And then she was in his arms, both of them crying and laughing and holding each other like anchors. Their daughter arrived on a snowy February morning, tiny and perfect and demanding. They named her Sofia Elena, honoring both their families. Sebastian was a devoted father from the first moment, learning to change diapers and prepare bottles with the same focused attention he brought to business deals. Clara watched him rock their daughter at 3 in the morning, singing off key lullabies, and fell in love with him all over again. 16 months later, their son joined the family, Matteo Daniel. He was calmer than his sister, content to observe the world with serious eyes. Their house, a renovated Victorian they had purchased and carefully restored together, filled with toys and laughter and the beautiful chaos of family life. Clara cut back her hours at the center, focusing on teaching and program development rather than hands-on restoration. She missed the detailed work sometimes, but watching her students discover the same passion she felt made it worthwhile. Sebastian restructured his company to work from home more, unwilling to miss moments with their children. "This is not what I imagined my life would look like," Clara said one evening. They were in their backyard, watching Sofia chase butterflies while Matteo napped in Sebastian's arms. 10 years ago, I was alone in a tiny apartment, convinced I would spend my life single and dedicated only to my work." "Regrets?" Sebastian asked quietly. "Not even one." Clara leaned against him, careful not to disturb their sleeping son. You gave me everything I did not know I needed. Family, security, a partnership that makes me better. I love you more now than the day we married. Same, Sebastian said, kissing the top of her head. You and these kids are everything. The business, the money, the success, none of it matters compared to this. Coming home to you, watching our children grow, building this life together. This is what I was supposed to be doing all along. Years continued to unfold like a painting revealing itself layer by layer. Sophia inherited Clara's artistic talent and Sebastian's head for business, declaring at age 8 that she would run an art gallery when she grew up. Matteo was quieter, happiest with books and music, content to observe rather than lead. They were different but devoted to each other, the way Clara had hoped. The center expanded twice, adding programs for underprivileged youth and fellowship opportunities for emerging restorers. Clara published papers on restoration techniques that became standard references in the field. Sebastian's company continued to focus on preservation and affordable housing, gaining recognition for ethical development practices. On their 10th anniversary, Sebastian took Clara back to the gallery where they had met. It was hosting a retrospective of her career, showcasing before and after photos of the paintings she had restored over the past decade. Look at what you have accomplished, Sebastian said softly, standing beside her as they viewed her life's work laid out in chronological order. You have saved art that would have been lost. You have taught hundreds of students. You have built something that will outlast us both. We built it, Clara corrected, taking his hand. None of this happens without you. Your support, your belief in me, your willingness to invest in something that might not turn a profit. You made this possible. You would have found a way regardless, Sebastian said firmly. Your talent and passion would have gotten you here eventually. I just got to be part of the journey. Clara turned to face him fully. This man who had changed her entire life by asking her to dinner after she dropped a champagne glass. He had aged in the decades since, lines deepening around his eyes, gray threading through his dark hair. But his eyes still held the same warmth, the same certainty that had made her feel seen that first night. I am so grateful it was you, she said. That night at the opening, when I made a fool of myself, I could not have imagined that mortifying moment would lead to everything we have now. Our children, our home, this life we have built, it is more than I ever dreamed. The art turned into forever, Sebastian said softly, gesturing at the walls around them. Your art, our life together, the legacy we are creating, all of it matters, all of it lasts. They stood together in the gallery, surrounded by beauty they had helped preserve and create, thinking about their children at home with Clara's mother and the life waiting for them. It was not perfect. No life was. There were challenges and disagreements and moments of frustration. But it was real and earned and filled with love that grew deeper every year. When they finally left the gallery that night, Sebastian took Clara's hand the same way he had that first evening, steady and sure. And Clara squeezed back, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. Two people who had found each other by chance and built forever through choice. The art had turned into forever after all, in ways neither of them could have predicted but both of them treasured. And as they drove home through the Chicago night, toward the children and life they had created, Clara thought about that nervous girl dropping champagne at a gallery opening and wished she could tell her not to worry, that the embarrassment would lead to everything she had ever wanted. That sometimes the best art was the life you created with someone you loved. That forever was not just possible but waiting, patient and perfect, ready to unfold one beautiful moment at a time.